Welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I am Kathryn Peterson here with my co-host, the great Michael Regan. And we recently did an episode on the 100-day burn, and we wanted to just set that up a little bit more for you. As we go towards the end of the year, we feel like there's some things you can do to prep for upcoming volume, because of course, when you do the 100-day burn, you might be busy after that. So we want to make sure that you're ready for that, and that we're kind of going through a little bit of a coaching session on prepping and teeing up things, being ready for any obstacles that may come your way. And with that, I'm going to welcome my co-host, Michael Regan. Welcome back.
Thanks, Kathryn. Always great to be with you. Always great to be with our audience. And I do love this topic because it really does feel more like a coaching topic, which is fun to do on the podcast every once in a while, is give people a glimpse into what it's like to take a topic like the 100-day challenge or the 100-day burn, as you referred to it, and now get tactical, how to really prepare for that, both mentally and practically speaking. So I'd like to unpack that. And I want to take your comment and really start there. I think most of us, when we look at the calendar and say, "Hey, it's post Labor Day. It's time to set up my 100-day challenge for the end of the year," we do that with some, I guess we'd say, thought around on the way it fits in the calendar, but maybe not with the thought around how does it fit within my pipeline? How does it fit within the economics going on around me? How does it fit within the season that I'm in? So if you, our listener, are in a production related role and your responsibility is to get as many sales booked between now and the end of the year as you can, let's tune in and talk a little bit about what it takes to be mentally, physically, emotionally, and maybe even, tactically ready for a 100-day challenge. So not only do you get the most out of it, but as Kathryn suggested, you're really prepared for what happens after the challenge. So Kathryn, let's tip this off and just talk about some of the best practices that go into this. We talked about how to set up a 100-day challenge, but we didn't really talk as much about the mental side of it. And so as we look at this, as you are looking at your calendar this fall, let's just talk your situation and see if the audience can connect with it. Does it feel to you like things are starting to pick up a little bit? Does it feel to you like you're starting to see a little more transactional activity on the horizon? What are you experiencing as a sales professional?
Yeah, I think most people that I'm talking to, and myself included, are getting more volume, meaning more contracts in, more refinances in, more phone calls, more apps. All of those things are up from the statistics that I'm seeing in my own branch and also just hearing on the street. So yeah, I do think we are getting busier, which is great.
So when things get busier, does that create any kind of tension in your mind between what I would call prospecting and processing? And when I say processing, I don't mean the role of the literal loan processor. I mean just managing the stuff that's in your inbox. Does it create a tension for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because you want to keep building business, but you also all of a sudden might have doubled your pipeline, and trying to keep both of those things in balance is always difficult.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you do first to prepare yourself and then second to prepare your team? Because I think as a team leader, you've really got to start with your own sense of how do I sort through that as I prepare for my day and my week? And then you have to bring team members along to help get them harmonized with that as well. What's your approach to get ready for that increase, that uptick in volume that you're experiencing without letting go of some of the prospecting goals that you have?
Yeah, I think so. Number one is just being really organized about the files coming in. So one thing that we've started to do on our team is the loan coordinator is doing a little bit more of that upfront list quickly to get that out to the client so that when the processor gets it, it's a little bit more complete. And so just lining out the process differently is what people might need to do. And then also, because that way we're going to have less issues down the road. And then also, the more we can delegate things around to different members on the team, that can be helpful depending on who still has time left in their day based on the changes in volume from one section of the business to the other. And then another one is I had my newer processor meet with a different processor to just go through some tips and tricks on how to be more efficient, because now that she's used to the systems, you can kind of speed up things a little bit. So trying to be more efficient with those. Earlier in the summer, we did things like, can we update any email templates? Can we have some emails ready to send about refinances? Can we, send out refi certificates, which we've been doing? So just that when people are ready, they are contacting us to do that. So there's, I think, a lot of prep work that goes into this anticipated volume, and it's how much you can get done before the volume hits.
All right, so I'm going to take the hit for this one. I definitely question stacked and gave you two questions. You definitely drilled down on one of them, but I don't want to skip the first one.
Okay.
What I set up was, how do you personally prepare for that before you get your team prepared? So
Mm-hmm.
I think as the audience heard you talk about your team, I really don't want to miss what you might do, because there could be a team leader out there that could really glean from this conversation. What are some of the, I mean, I know, for instance, you're a win by noon user. I know, for instance, you run your quarterly focus plan. So what are some of the things you're doing to make that shift personally so that you can then lead your team effectively?
Yeah, so I think, well, initially I really worked on my mindset because I needed to keep that really strong. And we've had some other podcasts around that. But then, second, I still have those non negotiables in my day, like working out so that I come energized and ready to work as hard as I can. And then also making sure my day is organized and I'm doing some time blocking to say, like for instance, my loan coordinator was out of town. So I tried to block a good portion of today to work on loan files. So some of that's planning time, also just being mentally ready for the changes. And then also just, I'm a little lucky that things have lined up within my family to be a little bit more ready as well,
Yeah.
because my daughter went off to school, so I can dedicate a little bit more time to work. And then I have to be careful about what I say yes to and what I say no to, because if you know you're going to be busy, now is not the time to join a new board or put 17 things on your plate, things like that.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Okay, so there's lots of stuff we can unpack there, but I hope what the audience heard is, it you did mention mindset, but you also have some very tactical approaches to the way that you're doing simple things like time blocking, prepping, being balanced in your approach. So I want to hit on a couple of these. And I'm just going to start with the physical, because I do think when you talk about your daily workout routines, that's such an important part about all of us needing to create energy in order to have the energy we need, or to fill our
Mhm.
tank so that we're really uh, highly energized to be able to handle the weight of all of the work that we're about to do. It's not going to happen if we're on a half filled tank. And so I love that you said that. Um, so if we were to look at the way you do that, do you have a calendar routine for your workouts that's the priority, like that gets blocked out first, or are you just trying to squeeze those in here and there when you can?
Oh no, I have a plan. I figured you probably asked that knowing that.
I might have.
So
That might have been a leading
yeah,
question, but I want our audience to hear that,
yeah.
because I'll bet some of us out there, if we're being honest, some of the listeners know
Hmm.
this, they know that energy comes from their workout, but they squeeze it in instead
Hmm.
of prioritizing it. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for me, the night before, because that's always when things start, I lay out my clothes, including my socks, all the things, make sure I have full water. And then I really won't let myself take a shower without working out, like take a hair shower, and women will know what I'm talking about. So
Good, because I
it's
didn't. I thought a hair shower, that I think I always wash my hair in the shower. Isn't that normal?
no, that's not normal. So basically, if I haven't worked out, then I'm like, well, but I have to work out today because I need to shower today. So I kind of trick my brain that way. And then generally I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the bike. And then after that, do weights. So I have like a pretty strong schedule. And then on the weekend, I get outside and do a workout. So that's my plan really every week, and I stick to it pretty well. I mean, normally it's just what I do. I just don't let myself not do it. That's just not an option.
So I love that. That's the two components that I hope our audience hears. The mindset is, I don't let myself skip, but the real tactical piece is, it has a routine that is set in your schedule, and it is the priority that you work
Mhm.
your day around. I think that's so important for us to hear, because many of us as professionals tend to think that getting to the office at a certain time is our priority, or emptying your inbox is a priority, or whatever the task is in front of you. And I don't want to minimize those things. My point is, if you are not exercising at a level that allows your energy to stay high, those things are depleting your tank. And if your tank gets depleted before the end of the day and you can't finish strong, the quality of your work diminishes. And guess what? That snowballs when you try to come back tomorrow, but you really didn't have a great finish to your day. So if the audience is listening, I hope they're understanding that being in the best physical shape you can be. I'm not talking, athlete shape. I mean, a few of you out there may in fact be performance athletes. And if that's you, you probably don't need this tip from us. You're already doing this at a high level. I'm looking for the person who says, yeah, I know I need to work out 3 to 5 times a week, but I haven't really prioritized it. Right now is the time. Make that your plan. No excuses. Get in the best shape you've been in so that you are physically ready for the road ahead. All right, let's shift to the next one. You mentioned your family. I think relationally being in shape is also super important. And what I mean by that is we all have family dynamics or relational dynamics with those around us. And sometimes those are grooving and they're going great. And sometimes they're clunky or even funky. And when those things aren't great, guess what? They drain us emotionally. They weigh on us. We carry that stuff in and out of our day. What advice would you give to our audience for folks that maybe aren't in the greatest place with their relationships right now, but they know they've got to be bringing the energy for the pipeline in front of them? What would you give
Oof,
them advice on?
that's hard. I think anything you can do to quickly repair things so that it's not taking up a lot of brain space. And I know that's kind of a counterintuitive, but if if you can say like, hey, I know I've been like a lot, and I'm going to be busy at work a little bit, but I really do want to prioritize this relationship. What does that look like? Or hey, can I is there a night that we can pick that we can go through stuff together, and I can kind of uh barricade that time so that we make sure to do that, and so that they know, hey, I know you're going to be busy, but I know no matter what, we're going to talk on Tuesday night at 6. So I think there's some things you can do that can help people feel better around you with all of that, but it's hard to repair while you also are crazy at work. Hopefully the relationship's sort of place
Yeah.
where you don't have to do both of those at once.
So I can't disagree with that. So I think there's two sides of this coin. If relationships aren't in a state of disrepair, then I think we go back to the workout advice and say prioritize the
Mhm.
relationship that's in a healthy place. Don't let it slide. Don't let it get into a
Yeah.
place of disrepair. So again, whether that's a child, whether that's a parent, whether that's a spouse or the person you're living with, if you're in a neutral to positive position, don't fail to prioritize that relationship. Schedule that time, make that time, prioritize that time. It's critical. I mean, my wife and I today literally just talked about our plan for Friday afternoon. We have what we call our Friday lunch date. It's not a romantic date, it's like a business meeting. We're going to go through all the stuff that stacks up throughout the week to make sure that we're going into our weekend with a sense of accomplishment. So it's on our list. We blocked out the time. So I want to encourage you to develop a strategy for your relationships that is going to keep you in a positive place. If you're not in a great place, here's the only thing I would say is, if at all possible, seek forgiveness. I know that's an easy thing to say, and probably your situation is complicated, but here's what I know for sure. If there's a way to just say, I'm sorry, and not need to fix it and not need to make everything perfect or everything great, just release the tension by saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to be like this. I don't want us to be this way. Anything you can do, the goal of this is to release you from the tension that might be keeping you from performing at a really high level. Because if you're carrying that stress in and out of your work every day, it's very difficult, especially if something stressful happens at work. Now you're already, it's like a sunburn. Your skin's already burning and
Mhm.
now someone's touching it and you're really agitated by that. So do your best to seek forgiveness, not because the other person might deserve that forgiveness, but because you need that release. You need the relief of
Mhm.
saying, I'm not going to carry this in and out of my day. I'm going to choose to forgive this so that I can move forward. If that's at all possible, I hope you can do that. And look, if you need more help, then we can give you in just a few minutes on a podcast. Please seek that out because that is often the thing that really wears heavy on people is fractured relationships. So if that's you, please take our direction today and seek peace. Seek reconciliation if at all possible. Okay, so that's talking a little bit about physical. That's talking a little bit about relational. Now let's talk a little bit about organizational. Um, how's your workspace these days, Kathryn? Like when you go into your office, is your desktop in great space? Is your laptop organized? Is your inbox clean? Are you ready for an increased volume of activity? What does it look like these days?
Yeah, so I spent some time over the last few weeks cleaning out some of the parts of your desk that you never touch, and that felt really nice. Got rid of a bunch of stuff. So I did want to, and I every time I open up that door, I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. So I did spend some time doing that over the last few weeks, and that's been good. I think that in my desk, I kind of learned because I worked at a bank that you can't leave stuff out. So my desk is always pretty clean in general because we do mostly everything electronically anyway. And if I have too much paper around me, I feel overwhelmed. So I really try to straighten it up at the end of every night. So yeah, overall, okay. Now we won't talk about my inbox, but that's okay.
Well, then let's leave that as a clue because we all walk on feet of clay. None of us are perfect. But if to your point, if the physical environment is in pretty good shape, because hey, it's mostly an electronic environment these days,
Mhm.
I hope our listeners may hear that that may be where they need to spend some time. So look, whether it's going through your workspace and creating the order that you need, maybe it's time to, like Kathryn just said, open those drawers and clear things out. Maybe it's time to clear that credenza or that desk space off so you're not looking at, backlog paperwork. Um, and heck, even if you're working from home, which I know some of our listeners are doing, maybe it's even thinking about it in the picture of, hey, if my home environment feels cluttered and I don't feel great about that workspace, taking some time to clean that stuff out is really good. But if, to Kathryn's point about her inbox, or for those of you that may have, the desktop with 200 icons on it, think about the idea that's clutter as well, and anything you can do to create an organization or a system with that clutter helps lower your level of stress when you're trying to manage more things. It's just creating capacity. So it may be that you need to do, a trip to the digital Goodwill. Some things might need to be
Mhm.
given away. And so, I'm a big fan of David Allen's Getting Things Done. If you're looking for a system to follow on that, it's a great one. And here's a quick tip from that book. If those of you that haven't read it would like to get started, is if you can do something in less than 2 minutes, just do it. Don't think about it. If in front of you that you can get done in 2 minutes or less, get it done, because often we stack things up because we think, oh, I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later. And then we end up really just drowning in stacked up things when some of
Mhm.
these things we can knock out quickly. So
Mhm.
I hope for those of you that are getting in the best shape of your career, whether it's physically, whether it's relationally, or in this case, organizationally, this is all designed to help give you capacity so that if you're going to push yourself through a 100-day challenge and really get the most out of this fall season, you're not doing it with, fractured relationships or disorganization or just physical exhaustion, because these are the key ingredients to success and they don't often get talked about. Often we talk about all the really bright shiny object sales tools and techniques, but today Kathryn and I just wanted to spend some time talking about real life practical things. Kathryn, as we tie out on this one today, anything else you would help encourage someone to do beyond just those areas of, again, looking at things through the lens of physical, relational, or organizational? Any other direction you'd want to give?
The only other thing I would say is that setting actual time that you're going to show up at work. So I show up every day by 8, I leave around 5, but setting those bookmarks or those bookends, I should say, on your day can be helpful because I know sometimes you start doing something in the day and then you end up at the office at 10. But getting in that extra time in the morning can make a huge difference for productivity. And that, I think, is why I'm in the business, or why I have the business I do, is because I really look at it as a full-time job and I'm here. And that really, really does help.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that. So many folks get into real estate or mortgage banking because they love the flexibility, but they don't realize that that flexibility needs some structure around it. You can't just go from one extreme to the other. You have to find that space in between where you're creating the structure you need, and then
Mm.
you're recognizing that the accountability starts and ends with you. So I love that you've got an 8 to 5 routine, not because you're being held down by a boss who's measuring that like some people are at
Mm.
a regular job, but because you know that allows you to get the most out of your productive day. And in the spirit of our friend Todd Bookspan, it allows you to win by noon on most days, which is a
That's
great
right.
approach.
Yeah, if you're
Listen,
only in the
Kathryn,
office from 11 to 12, it's hard to win by noon.
it is hard to do. Kathryn, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know today's episode was really a practical one. I hope our audience sees that, sometimes that's really what needs to be talked about, are what are the real things that are happening between all of these strategies that we
Mhm.
throw out and all of these best practices, or when we interview folks and they share all these great things they're doing. Sometimes it's good to just talk about what are the simple things that need to happen in the background that people are always aware of, but maybe not recognizing how important they are. And I'm really glad today that we unpacked a few of those before folks gear up for the fall. Look, you mentioned it earlier in today's recording. I think this fall season is going to be one where we are going to see an increase in transactional
Mhm.
activity in the real estate marketplaces. So, those of you that work in the housing industry, I need you to get this through your head. It's time to get in shape, whether it's physically, whether it's relationally, whether it's organizationally. Time to get in shape, because you really fought hard to be here over the last 2.5 years. This has been a really, really difficult run. And if you're still here, it's because you hoped and believed there was a better day coming. It looks like we're about to start seeing that shift in the economy, and I want you to feel like you're really ready to capture it. So please take advantage of these tips that we gave you today. And Kathryn, I appreciate all that you're doing to share the real story with our audience. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. It's always great to be here with you. And that wraps up another episode of Building Bigger Lives. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you.